Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
All right, everybody. I just turned 65 years old. If you're listening to this in real time on December 16th, 2024, welcome to the first day of my 66th year. Okay, let me explain to you my birthday philosophy. It irritates a lot of people. Some people are encouraged by it. But if you think about it, my friends, when you turned 1 year old, you were celebrating that you had completed your first year. So whenever you're celebrating your birthday, you're celebrating that you have finished that many years. You have come to the completion of that. So I just came to the completion of my 65th year. That's why I'm saying today, when I am dropping this episode, and you may be hearing it again in real time, December 16th, 2024, the first day. Welcome to the first day of my 66th year. I am beginning it. I've turned 65. I have completed 65 years. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit have caused me to make it thus far. And now we are launching into the 66th year. Now in January, we will be celebrating right here on Tent Talk that we have completed 6 years of the podcast, and I'm looking forward to that. We're also in our end-of-year giving campaign, Holy Shift 2025. We are in the middle of our end-of-year giving campaign, and I was thinking, what will I share in these days, right? Sometimes we get under the press and the pressure. Oh, it's the last days of the year and it's this and that. And I always encourage myself, and I'm encouraging you, stay on God's calendar. Man's calendar fits inside, if you will, God's calendar. But we want to live on God's timing. I love the fullness of time at the proper time. It says in Galatians 4:4 that in the fullness of time, when heaven and earth and everything aligned, everything had been done, everything had been accomplished, Jesus was born of a woman. And so it is important. Times are important as long as they're God's timings. And in this time, I have had 2 things drawn to my attention. And so this is not right now a series. We've just finished or added on to a series that we had been doing, True Leaders, His Leaders. It's time to build, and it certainly is. But my friends, oftentimes in the creation process, there are seasons of chaos. Well, let me put it this way. In the season of creation and of building, chaos is definitely in there. It's not such a season of chaos. It's the season of building. And inside that season, it can get a bit chaotic. And you may think, there are things going down. There are things that are staying. There are things that are being moved in. There is shift, there is transition, there is change, there is growth, there is expansion. There are all these things happening, but it isn't always pretty in the midst of the process. So I pulled out, let me back up and say this. The 2 things that got my attention, because sometimes I wander around my office, I look through the things that I've been writing, the Post-it notes that I've been making when God drops certain thoughts into my mind, and eventually they may turn into podcast episodes. But I've come back across something here now 2 or 3 times in the last few days. And it's a quote that I've said before, and God is bringing me back around to it. Now, typically that means he's saying that to me. And if you're a teacher or you love to pass on information to other people or pass on truth, maybe you'll understand the pain of this is that the moment you get something, you're thinking, people need to know this. I've got to share this with someone. And God says, I'm talking to you. Oh, how easy it is to bypass ourselves. And so I know that he's saying this to me. And so sometimes in real time, he'll give me permission to be able to also then speak it out to others. But it is this quote, and I still don't know exactly who to ascribe the quote to. I used to think it was Abraham Lincoln, and then I did some research and it said, no, that might not be true. So to be honest, I'm not sure where this came from. But here's the quote, is if you are going to take 6 hours to chop down a tree, spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And every time I hear this, I know the Father is telling me, Nancy, we must spend time together. You must let me sharpen you. Because he has been dropping things in me. I see so many things, or maybe it's a few things that I see, and yet they're so big, so massive, it starts to feel like many, many things. And I have got to let him settle me so that he can sharpen me. That he can bring things into focus. That I'm in something that's so much bigger than any one person. Teams of people. I'm watching nations break open. People stepping forward to the Father, not to me. They come and tell me about it later. Stepping in to say, Nancy, I think I'm hearing him. I think we're going to need to bring this work into a particular nation, a particular state. I'm ready to take the responsibility of my own growth at a whole new level so that he can move through me as a door into history. Like, really? Voice messages from producers in different nations, conversations, text messages coming in, one-on-one appointments, Zoom conversations. I mean, communications on so many different levels and so many people, if I can say it this way, in the pipeline, many of them just about to step into their own process, some right in the middle of it, some coming to the end of phase 1 and stepping into phase 2. Others are stepping into phase 3. I mean, I'm watching things that he told me years ago. But when you're in it yourself and you're on the front lines of your own, you have to practice what you preach, my friends. And now I know that I must, because I think we're about to chop down some trees, okay? We're about to clear some land. I think he's about to possess and occupy through us. In the ordinary of every day, the organic is breaking forward and the man-made synthetic is going down. And to get with him and to let him sharpen me, and I'm encouraging you, let him sharpen you. The other thing that caught my attention was that I pulled out a book of mine that I've had for many, many years, and many of you may know it. It's the devotional book, My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. But this particular book was given to me by a dear friend years and years ago, and it's actually Oswald Chambers. I'm looking to see if it was signed, and no, it's not, so I don't know what year it was given to me. but it was a long time ago. And this book is called Devotions for Morning and Evening with Oswald Chambers. So there's 2 entries for each day. And I opened up and was looking at things for this week, this coming, these episodes. Because sometimes I'm struggling with how to articulate things that I'm in the middle of. And people want you to give them this 30-second elevator pitch so they can decide whether or not I'm like, I don't have it. Well, let me back up and say that when we first began NMM and somebody told me this, I very almost grudgingly, I was like, okay. And what I decided on was, if people said, well, what are you doing? What's your 30-second pitch? I'm like, redefining discipleship. Now, inside of that is a massive, massive work. But during that same season, I came across someone who so articulated what was in me. Because I even remember saying, if there are people that they only got 30 seconds to give me, they might not be my people. I'm a slow fire person. And then I came across this amazing statement, and it said exactly like this. It fit me exactly at the season. It was so freeing. And it said, I can't sum up my life's work in a 30-second elevator pitch, but if you're willing to take the stairs with me, I can share with you what I'm doing. Oh, I was like, thank you, because sometimes you feel like you've got to squeeze your, taking the stairs person into an elevator person. And I know that the Father can give us many ways to articulate. I have my own little saying that says meditate to articulate. That's why it's going to take 4 hours to sharpen the axe and then 2 hours to cut down the tree, to meditate with Him, to meditate before Him. What are you saying, Father? And maybe you've heard me say recently, I've just come to the point where I believe the prophetic, just to bring it down into exactly what it is that I'm going to say what my Father says. And the apostolic is I'm going to do what my Father's doing. That's what Jesus said, the prophet and the apostle. He said, I do what my Father's doing, and I say what my Father is saying. And so keeping it at that simplest form, that's what He does for me. I'm not saying anybody else has to do that, but for me, because sometimes things get so dramatic, so big, so complicated. It's like, no. The organic, right? Just staying with Him in what He's saying and what He's doing. So in the midst of this, as I was pondering on all of this, I said, I'm going to look at what did Oswald say on my birthday, December 15th. And what do you know? This is amazing. It's like a little kiss from God, This is like, thank you so very much, Father. This helped me to articulate the fresh pressing that I'm in, the fresh struggle that I'm in, because I have to come through to be able to share with anyone, speak with anyone, pass it on, see it built, any of that, to be able to be the message. So this is simply what it says. December 15th, Oswald Chambers wrote in the morning devotional titled, Approved unto God. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. 2 Timothy 2:15. If you cannot express yourself on any subject, struggle until you can. If you do not, someone will be the poorer all the days of his life. Struggle to re-express some truth of God to yourself, and God will use that expression to someone else. Go through the winepress of God where the grapes are crushed. You must struggle to get expression experimentally. Then there will come a time when that expression will become the very wine of strengthening to someone else. But if you say lazily, I am not going to struggle to express this thing for myself, I will borrow what I say. The expression then will not only be of no use to you, but of no use to anyone. Try to state to yourself what you feel implicitly to be God's truth, and you give God a chance to pass it on to someone else through you. Always make a practice of provoking your own mind to think out what it accepts easily. Our position is not ours until we make it ours by suffering. The author who benefits you most is not the one who tells you something you did not know before, but the one who gives expression to the truth that has been dumbly struggling in you for utterance. I mean, Oswald Chambers just gave me words to express. He was the very thing that he was writing. And I pray that I will heed this and that I will do what is necessary so that first the Father can have what it is that He's wanting with me and through me, and that then it will come forward in a way that will provoke you and encourage you and help you to take your next steps, because it gave words, it gave you encouragement to stay with Him as He births through you what He's put in you, so that He can have what He wants in the earth today through sons who enter in for themselves and then become doors for others. But I felt such the presence of God and such the peace of God as I read this simple devotion. And so we go forward. I pray that this deposit for you today has been encouraging to you. I'm so glad that we're here on Tent Talk together. It is the podcast of Nancy McCready Ministries, and I'm so glad that we're in this together. Let's continue on. Until next time. Hey, before you go, please consider an end-of-year giving contribution to Nancy McCready Ministries. Yes, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so yes, it will be tax deductible. So we want to encourage all of you that are looking for good, strong, clean places and people to be able to sow into. We want to ask you to consider Nancy McCready Ministries, 501c3 nonprofit, for your end-of-year giving before midnight on December 31st. It is certainly our desire that then you would continue as a monthly recurring partner with us as we shift into 2025. Look for the giving link in the show notes, and I will thank you now in advance for your giving, for partnering with us, and for being here on Tent Talk. Love you all.